Numéro 10.
Senatrice Coyle.
Honourable colleagues, I rise today to support Senator Lankin's motion to authorize the Standing Senate Committee on Social Affairs, Science and Technology to examine and report on the future of workers, examining the social impacts of precarious work and the gig economy, and explore solutions. Collègues, à partir d'un jeune âge, j'ai été consciente de l'importance du travail et des travailleurs. My father, Bernard Patterson, a traveling salesman, provided for a family of 9 on a 100% commission-based income, no fixed salary, no employment-based pension plan, and no health or dental benefits. Precarious, yes, for sure. And if he had continued longer, even more so, he would have seen a huge downturn in market demand for the wholesale goods he sold, fabrics and notions associated with home dressmaking, as well as a loss of the small fabric shops and large department stores he used to sell to. Fortunately, he retired before his work world was disrupted. 40 years ago, I worked in Botswana, supporting self-employed women and men to improve their incomes. They were engaged in everything from hunting and tanning wildlife hides, carpentry, foraging for desert plants, agriculture, vending, artisanal mining, to arts and crafts. During my graduate studies, I conducted research on the Income Security Program for Cree hunters and trappers in the James Bay region of northern Quebec. And my major research was on the role of small-scale enterprise development in meeting the income and employment needs of developing nations. J'ai géré Calmedo, un ONG spécialisant dans le financement pour les micro-entrepreneurs au niveau international et à travers le Canada. Later, I led the Coady Institute, which emerged from a local economic movement focused on supporting people, mostly resource-based workers, and their communities to improve their livelihoods. Today, Coady hosts the Centre for Employment Innovation and offers courses in livelihoods and markets, social enterprise, and the future of work and workers to people across Canada and around the world. The self-employed, micro-entrepreneurs, women in formal sector workers, many living on the margins of the economy, have been a central focus of my professional life. They share a lot with workers of the gig economy. While Senator Lankin's motion is largely focused on concerns related to workers in Canada, international factors and global trends have an impact on Canadian workers. It is also important for Canada to know about and support global efforts focused on the future of work and workers everywhere. For a little historical perspective, it's interesting to hear what then President of the World Bank, Robert McNamara, had to say in 1979 about an earlier moment of global societal and economic transformation. And I quote, "And where today will the rural migrants go? The world is already allotted, the land occupied by the 19th century modernizers. The poorest quarter of the population in developing lands risks being left almost entirely behind the vast transformation of the modern technological society." 15 years later, in 1994, American economist Jeremy Rifkin's book, The End of Work, The Decline of the Global Labor Force and the Dawn of the Post-Market Era, predicted a near-workerless society due to the third industrial revolution, the age of information technology. Rifkin believed the end of work could mean the demise of society as we've come to know it, or it could signal the beginning of a great social transformation. Et naturellement, maintenant, tout le monde ne parle que de la quatrième révolution industrielle, ce qui nous amène à étudier l'impact que cela aura sur les travailleurs. In 2019, the 100th anniversary of the International Labour Organization, the ILO, with its Global Commission on the Future of Work, issued its landmark report entitled Work for a Brighter Future. According to the report's introduction, new forces are transforming the world of work. The transitions involved call for decisive action. Countless opportunities lie ahead to improve the quality of working lives, expand choice, close the gender gap, reverse damages wreaked by global inequality, and much more. Yet none of this will happen by itself. Without decisive action, we will be heading into a world that widens existing inequalities and uncertainties. Technological advances, artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics will create jobs, but those who lose their jobs in this transition may be the least equipped to seize the new opportunities. Today's skills may not match the jobs of tomorrow. The greening of our economies will create millions of jobs, but other jobs will disappear. Expanding youth populations in some parts of the world and aging populations in others may place pressure on labor markets and social security systems. Yet, in these new shifts lie new possibilities to afford care and inclusive, active societies. Philip Jennings, member of the ILO Commission, the UN Global Compact, and member of the Future of Work Commission of the state of New Jersey, when speaking of the findings of the Global Commission's report, quotes A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. As for the winter of despair, the Commission identified several matters of concern. From the 200 million unemployed, 800 million workers surviving on a few dollars a day, almost half the global workforce in vulnerable jobs, 150 million children at work, rising inequality, persistent gender inequality, ravages of climate change, demographic change, digital transformation, billions with inadequate social protection, and the ascendancy of the economic power of business. We know that the rapid changes happening in the world of work are not impacting everyone equally, with some workers bearing the burden of these challenges disproportionately, thereby exacerbating overall inequality. Projections of the ILO indicate that about 72% of workers in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa are in vulnerable employment. Informal workers make up 60% of the global workforce and 90% of workers in India. Projections for vulnerable employment in developed economies like ours is at 9.9%. In the 2019 book, Towards a Just, Dignified, and Secure Future of Work, Lessons from India, contributors Kapoor and Basol speak of the need to adapt the global narrative on the future of work and bring in the perspective of the Global South. The book was published by the Self-Employed Women's Association of India, a union of 2 million poor women, founded by Ela Bhatt. Rima Nanavati of Sewa, member of the World Bank's Advisory Council on Gender, was one of the commissioners in the ILO's Global Commission on the Future of Work. Closer to home, McKinsey & Company put out a report late last year on the future of work in Black America. The starting point of the report is the well-documented, persistent, and growing racial wealth gap between African American families and white families. It goes on to underline the importance of examining the economic intersectionality of race, gender, age, education, and geography as it relates to the future of work. In 2017, Dell Technologies put out a report stating that 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 haven't been invented yet. 85%. It speaks of a globalized workforce and a lifetime of retraining. The report's prediction of social disruption is not necessarily a doom and gloom scenario, where machines take people's jobs and humans become a non-entity. Instead, the notion is that the tasks we are used to doing today are going to be replaced by tasks of the future, some of which we know and some of which we have yet to discover. In 2018, the World Economic Forum came out with a report entitled 5 Things to Know About the Future of Jobs. These include 1, automation, robotization, and digitization look different across different industries. 2, there's a net positive outlook for jobs amid significant job disruption in purely quantitative terms. 75 million current job roles may be replaced by the shift in division of labor between humans, machines, and algorithms, while 133 million new job roles may emerge at the same time. 3, the division of labor between humans, machine, and algorithms is shifting very fast. 4, new tasks at work are driving demands for new skills. 5, we will all need to become lifelong learners. In 2020, the World Economic Forum followed up with a report entitled Jobs of Tomorrow, Mapping Opportunity in the New Economy. I won't go into the detail of that report today, but it may be something the committee may want to explore should this motion pass. A report in the Deloitte Insight series on the future of work entitled What is the Future of Work? Talks about how the forces of change are affecting 3 major dimensions of work. These 3 interrelated dimensions are, 1, well, what is it? What is the nature of work itself? 2, who does the work? The workforce, the workers. And 3, where the work is done, the workplace. All 3 of these dimensions, the work, the workers, and the workplace, are shifting. The ILO's Global Commission on the Future of Work calls for a new approach that puts people and the work they do at the center of public policy and business practice, a human-centered agenda for the future of work. Jennings sees the proposed policy framework outlined in the ILO Commission report as the spring of hope. It would have 3 pillars: investing in people's capabilities, investing in institutions of work, and investing in decent and sustainable work. Canada and our global partners have signed on to the UN Agenda 2030, including Sustainable Development Goal number 8, which is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. That is what Senator Lankin's motion is getting at: decent work for all. With so much social disruption already here and much more predicted to come, and at an accelerated pace, with the impacts of change uneven, leaving some citizens more vulnerable than others, the report of the Global Commission on the Future of Work calls for reinvigorating the social contract between citizens, the state, the market, and other relevant non-state actors. Ela Bhatt, founder of India's Self-Employed Women's Association, reinforces the importance of the motion put forward by Senator Lankin when she states simply, work gives meaning to everyone's life. Work gives identity. It provides livelihoods that produce goods and services that we use and thus build our society. We all work, and therefore we are all workers. Colleagues, if a new or reinvigorated social contract is what our country needs to be considering in today's world of accelerating change for workers, a logical next step would be to do what the Senate does best: study those changes and their impacts on workers and examine solutions. C'est ce que la motion de la sénatrice Lankin nous demande d'appuyer. Collègues, c'est d'une grande importance. Honourable Senators, let's support this motion and let's get this timely study underway. Merci, thank you, walalio.